In grammar, to determine means to specify characteristics of a word, to narrow down its meaning along certain parameters. The next little French words we're going to see now are words that determine another word, usually a noun, by informing us of the genre, the nombre, and sometimes the identity of the person or thing designated by this determined noun. These little determinative words are called les articles. In French, as you can see in the boxes at pages 19 through 21, there are three groups of articles, one of which is subdivided in two. We have les articles définis, les articles indéfinis, and les articles partitifs. In English, it's really short and sweet. There's only one single article défini, which is the. The article défini is used to determine a person or thing that is expressed by a countable noun. By countable, grammarians mean things that one can count. For example, chair, door, moustiquaire. One can count chairs, doors, or mosquito screens. We can have one, we can have two, three, or more. We'll go into details a bit later when we get to the uncountable concepts. The article défini informs us on the nombre and the genre of a countable person or thing, of which the identity is also clearly known to the speaker, of which the identity is definite. For example, le patron est généreux. La salle de conférence est occupée. Les clients sont fidèles. In this situation, the speaker is talking to someone who clearly knows which boss, which conference room, and which clients we're talking about. The article défini can express many nuances, namely, a demonstrative nuance. Regarde le clown là-bas. It's as if the speaker had said, regarde ce clown là-bas, a specific clown right there in front of the speaker's eyes. There can also be a possessive nuance. J'ai mal à la gorge. The speaker is really saying, j'ai mal à ma gorge, but that's a formula that's not really used in French. You'll find the same possessive nuance when saying, j'ai mal à la tête, j'ai mal au dos, j'ai le cœur serré, j'ai le cœur blessé. J'ai l'esprit totalement occupé. J'ai la tête ailleurs. The speaker is really talking about his or her own self, about parts of their own person, their body, etc. But they're not using a possessive pronoun, but rather an article défini. This is something very common in French. There can also be a nuance of habit. For instance, je fais l'inventaire les vendredis. It's as though the speaker had said, je fais l'inventaire tous les vendredis, or à chaque vendredi, etc. Another possible nuance with the article défini would be a nuance of affection or praise, or at the contrary, of derogatory or critical comment. You're usually going to find that in exclamation phrases. For instance, oh, le beau bébé, le traître. It's as if the speaker had said, oh, quel beau bébé, or ah, ce gars, quel traître. The article défini can also express a nuance of complete uniqueness. For instance, le soleil se lève à l'est, on soupe à 18h pile chez les Franz. The speaker refers to one unique thing called the sun and one unique family called les Franz. The next nuance of the article défini is that of expressing a species. For instance, le chat est un mammifère. La baleine est un mammifère. L'humain a la parole. In these cases, to relate to an entire species, you would only use le or la. The last nuance of the article défini that we're going to see is a nuance of abstract reality, of general value. For instance, l'amitié est précieuse, la curiosité est un vilain défaut, l'amour sincère est rare. I mentioned at the top of this section on the article défini group that it also contains two subgroups within itself. Now that's really easy. The first of these subgroups is that of the article défini élidés, which means that an elision was done on either le or la. An elision is the suppression of the final vowel of a word when that word precedes either another vowel or a mute H. Now, a mute H is an H that you don't voice. And most H's in French are mute anyway, which means they are not pronounced. And so you will pronounce the word as if it starts with a vowel. Okay, so let's see a few examples of the elision of le or la. For instance, you wouldn't say le avion a atterri à l'heure. You would say l'avion. La amitié est une chose précieuse is wrong. You would say l'amitié. Same thing with le huissier a livré le subpénat. It's l'huissier. Or la huître n'est pas fraîche. L'huître. There are many words in French that start with a vowel or a mute H, yet don't impose an elision. You will find a list of these words in my last email. So that's it for the article défini élidé, the first subgroup of the article défini. The second subgroup of the article défini is that of the article défini contracté, which means that le and les are contracted or mashed together with another word, and in this case, this other word is a préposition, either the préposition de or a. First, let's see what happens when the article défini le or les are preceded by the préposition de. Voici le bureau de le PDG. You cannot phrase it that way in French. It's completely proper in English, though. Here's the office of the CEO. But in French, de and le mashed together become du. Voici le bureau du PDG. Take note of this article défini contracté du. We'll talk about a special aspect of it later. As I said, when the article défini la is preceded by the preposition de, it doesn't need to be contracted. Voici le bureau de la présidente du CA. Also keep in mind this article défini de la. We'll talk about a special aspect of it later also. When the article défini les is preceded by the preposition de, it becomes des. Voici le bureau de les représentants. Once again, you cannot phrase it that way in French, though it's completely proper in English. Here's the office of the salesmen. But in French, de and les mashed together become des. Voici le bureau des représentants. For the third time, keep in mind this article défini contracté des. Like with the article défini contracté du and its female sister de la, we'll talk about a special aspect of this article défini contracté des later on in this section. Now that we've seen the contraction of le and les when preceded by the preposition de, let's see the contraction with the preposition a. A and le, when mashed together, become o. Nous ferons le meeting à le bureau de le PDG. Nous ferons le meeting au bureau du PDG. As with de la, à la does not require a contraction. Nous ferons le meeting à la salle de conférence. When mashed together, a and les become o. Le patron a parlé à les vendeurs. Le patron a parlé aux vendeurs. So that's it for the article défini and its contracté and élidé forms.